Alrighty, can everybody hear me? Good
Yes.
evening,
Yes.
bonsoir. Great. All right, welcome everybody. So tonight for our guest speaker, we have Dr. Rolande Dathis, and she is the chair of Behavioral Social Sciences, associate professor and coordinator of sociology at Fisk University. Dr. Dathis' teaching career spans 3 decades, along with her legal inroads on behalf of Haitian immigrants, serving as cabinet member, Ministry of Justice and Public Safety in Haiti, her work in international law, speaking engagements, workshop presentations, research, grants, and awards. As director of the Haitian Refugee Center, she received the Carter Monod Human Rights Awards given by President Jimmy Carter on CNN. Her prior teaching experiences include Department Coordinator of Sociology at Texas College, Department Chair of Sociology and Psychology at Wiley College, Adjunct Professor at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia, Arkansas, Concordia University in Austin, Texas, Houston Community College at Houston Introduction, Texas A&M College Station, Texas, Université Lumière School of Medicine, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, lecturer on Introduction to Law, lecture tours on integration and acculturation, including several high schools, junior high schools, and universities. Erasmus High School in Brooklyn, New York. She was the teacher of social sciences at Johnson Community College in Johnson, North Carolina. She was an instructor of English and American history. Telamon Corporation in Raleigh, North Carolina. She worked also as an ESL program associate between legal and social agencies servicing migrant workers. Dr. Dathis has a long history of professional work internationally and in the US. Here in the US, she is a legal consultant on international business transactions, aviation law, international law issues, executive director of Haitian Refugee Center in Miami, Florida. She was also a counselor to Congresswoman Carrie Meek's office in Miami, Florida, director of Project Rockland Apostolate Center for Catholic Charities in Nanuet, New York, counselor for Crown Heights Progress Council in Brooklyn, New York, and counseling and job placement for newly arrived immigrants there. Her educational background provides a solid foundation and includes a PhD in sociology with an emphasis in race and ethnicity and social psychology from Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas. From Stetson University College of Law in Gulfport, Florida, she received a Master's of Law with an emphasis in international law and business. State University Faculty of Law in Gonesse, Haiti, law degree, Master of International Law from LaSalle University, Campbell University, Buies Creek, North Carolina, where she received the BS in Government and a minor in Spanish. Dathis is also a member of the American Bar Association, the American Sociological Association, Southwestern Social Sciences Association, Southern Sociological Society, and the Haitian Studies Association. Dr. Dathis is relentless in her dedication to apply sociology, human rights, social justice, and the plight of immigrants to the US. She is invited to speak at national and international conferences. She published a book in 2021 on multifaceted identities of immigrant Haitian families, coping strategies and strengths. There, she examines the makeup of social injustice by analyzing immigration rules and the movement of immigrants to the US between 1700 and 2017 as a co-writer to The Cultural and Historical Heritage of Colonialism, which was published in 2022 by Cambridge Scholars. She analyzes the hidden struggle between the Catholic religions and Voodoo and later Protestantism by examining which developed fluctuating cultural behaviors relating to the cultural identity of the Haitian population as a co-writer to Vodou and Christianity in Interreligious Dialogue, which was also published in November of 2023. She's published many articles and is now in the process of writing 2 books. Dr. Dathis, enchanté, and we're so excited to have you and to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ils ont partagé le monde, plus rien ne m'étonne, plus rien ne m'étonne, plus rien ne m'étonne. Ils ont partagé le monde, plus rien ne m'étonne, plus rien ne m'étonne, plus rien ne m'étonne. Si tu me laisses la Tchétchénie, moi je te laisse l'Arménie. Si tu me laisses l'Afghanistan, moi je te laisse le Pakistan. Si tu ne quittes pas Haïti, moi je t'embarque pour Bangui. Si tu m'aides à bombarder l'Irak, moi je t'arrange le Kurdistan. Ils ont partagé le monde, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne. Ils ont partagé le monde, aïe aïe aïe, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne. Si tu me laisses l'uranium, moi je te laisse l'aluminium. Si tu me laisses tes gisements, moi je t'aide à chasser les talibans. Si tu me donnes beaucoup de blé, moi je fais la guerre à tes côtés. Si tu me laisses extraire ton or, moi je t'aide à mettre le général dehors. Ils ont partagé le monde, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne. Ils ont partagé le monde, aïe aïe aïe, rien ne m'étonne. Ils ont partagé Africa sans nous consulter. Ils s'étonnent que nous soyons désunis. Une partie de l'Empire mandin se trouva chez les Wallafs. Une partie de l'Empire Mossi se trouva dans le Ghana. Une partie de l'Empire Soussou se trouva dans l'Empire mandin. Une partie de l'Empire mandin se trouva chez les Mossi. Ils ont partagé Africa. Ils ont partagé le monde. Tout le ils ont partagé le monde, aïe aïe aïe, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne. Ils ont partagé le monde, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne, rien ne m'étonne. Merci beaucoup. Merci d'être là ce soir. Merci. Moi, je suis le plus heureux parce que moi, mon rêve, c'était de chanter avec une chorale de 10 personnes. Et ce soir, il y a 900 personnes. 900, quand même. Hein? Merci beaucoup, merci. Merci.
So you ready for your PowerPoint?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to express my sincere gratitude to Texas Southern University's College of Liberal Arts and Behavioral Sciences, and especially to Dr. Karen Kossie-Chernyshev, Professor of History, for commemorating Black History Month with a series of discussions throughout February, a month. This initiative highlights the theme Reimagining the African Diaspora and contributes significantly to our understanding and appreciation of Black history. Being Black, the title of my presentation, I cannot see the PowerPoint well. Can you zoom it a little bit, please?
Okay. It's
I already acknowledged the next slide. Being Black. Now, next slide, Dr.
Is it still small for you?
Yeah, it is very small. I cannot see it.
Okay. Maybe you need to change the view on your end because it's showing at more than 100% on my end.
Okay.
So can you change the view on your
got
end?
it. Being Black in the Confessional Americas, the title of my presentation tonight.
Mhm.
Issues surrounding the Black experience in the United States and America are perhaps complex and multifaceted, influenced by deeply entrenched historical, cultural, and social and economic factors. Engaging in conversation about these issues is essential for understanding the ongoing struggle for racial justice and equality in the United States. A persistent narrative weaves together the laws, realities, and social and governmental structures that shape the lives of Black individuals, both domestically and globally. This narrative profoundly impacts our daily lives, often guiding our behaviors and actions. Consequently, we may wonder why Black people usually resist what is perceived as conventional or effective. This question lacks straightforward answers as the issues are rooted in social, political, and cultural factors related to race and the experiences of Black Americans. Our conference series, Reimagining the African Diaspora, aims to challenge misconceptions about effectiveness and identity. Legal frameworks often create disparities, particularly affecting marginalized groups. And for Black individuals, these laws have perpetuated systemic inequality. Below are key areas we observe legal conflicts. The Jim Crow laws from the late 19th century until the 1960s, state and local laws across the southern United States, particularly the Jim Crow laws, mandated racial segregation. These laws sparked considerable controversy as they institutionalized discrimination and severely restricted the rights of Black individuals in critical areas such as education, transportation, and voting. The debate over these laws highlighted the struggles against systemic racism and the fight for civil rights, ultimately leading to significant social and legal changes in the 1960s. The voting rights. Controversial laws like voter ID requirements, which gained traction with the Help America Vote Act of 2002, aggressive purging of voter rules introduced in various states throughout the 2010s and gerrymandering practices have created significant barriers for Black voters. For instance, the 2013 Supreme Court decision in Shelby County versus Alder invalidated key provisions of the Voting Rights of 1965, leading to a resurgence of voter suppression provision of the Voting Rights of 1965, leading a resurgence of voter suppression tactics. These measures are not merely administrative. They fundamentally undermine the democratic process by making it increasingly difficult for Black communities to exercise their voting rights. The impact of these laws raises serious questions about fairness and inequity in our electoral system. From the 19th century until the 1960s, state and local laws in the southern United States, particularly the Jim Crow laws, enforced racial segregation. These laws were highly controversial as they institutionalized discrimination and severely restricted the rights of Black individual critical areas such as education, transportation, and voting. Not only that, while formal segregation laws have been abolished, some contemporary legislation and practices continue to raise concern about racial inequality. For example, voter identification laws in various states have been criticized for disproportionately impacting minority voters. Additionally, issues such as gerrymandering and disparities in funding for public school contribute to ongoing challenges in achieving accurate equity and dismantling systemic racism. The legacy of these historical laws still influences discussion about race relations and civil rights in the United States today. From the late 19th century until the 1960s, state and local laws in the southern United States enforced those laws. So that not change. We're still seeing those things today, as we all can recall the election that we just had. Criminal justice system. In the criminal justice system, the implementation of mandatory minimum sentences, particularly with the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 and the three-strike laws, first enacted in California in 1994, has sparked considerable controversy. These policies have been linked to a drastic rise in incarceration rates among Black individuals. Critics argue that such laws are inherently punitive and exacerbate systemic racism within the justice system. This has raised urgent questions about fairness and equality in legal practices, especially in ongoing discussion about criminal justice reform. One area that we see in a lot of controversy is housing discrimination. The controversy surrounding redefining practices and discriminatory lending laws, particularly those established in the Homeowners Loan Corporation in the 1930s and the Federal Housing Administration's policies throughout the mid-20th century, underscores the systemic barriers that have historically prevented Black families from accessing housing. These unjust policies not only fueled racial segregation, but also contributed to significant economic disparities. This ongoing issue raises urgent questions about fairness and equity of our housing laws. The controversy surrounding redefining practices and discriminatory lending laws, particularly those implemented by the Homeowners Loan Corporation in the 1930s and the Federal Housing Administrative Policy, is really highlight systemic barriers that have historically hindered Black families from accessing housing. Employment discrimination. Laws such as the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1964 are designed to promote fairness in the workplace. Still, they often spark controversy by allowing for unequal treatment in hiring, promotion, and wages. Critics argue that these laws can inadvertently perpetuate systemic barriers for Black individuals in the workforce. leading to ongoing debates about equity and justice. This controversy raises significant questions about the effectiveness of this regulation and ensuing equal opportunities for all individuals. Disparities in funding for school in predominantly Black neighborhoods compared to those in predominantly white neighborhoods have long been a contentious issue in the United States. The disparities can be traced back to landmark laws such as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 and the Supreme Court ruling in Brown versus Board of Education 1954, which more of you probably know about, which communities still receive significantly less funding, primarily due to reliance on local property taxes. This funding gap continues to spark controversy and debate about systemic racism, educational equity, and the legal obligation of states to provide equal educational opportunities for all students, regardless of their racial or socioeconomic background. Another big one, health disparities. Laws and policies affecting healthcare across and quality can create significant health disparities in Black communities, leading to detrimental effects on overall well-being. For instance, the Affordable Care Act, enacted in 2010, aimed to improve access to healthcare, but faced criticism for not adequately addressing the unique needs for marginalized groups, including Black communities. Controversies surrounding Medicaid expansion in various states have also highlighted inequality. While some states embrace it, others opted out, ultimately leaving many Black individuals without necessary coverage and services. These disparities underscore the need for more inclusive policies to ensure equitable healthcare. Another big one, police practices. Laws such as the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 and the Stop and Frisk policy enacted in New York City in 1999 have contributed to a heightened sense of controversy. Is there a problem? Is there a problem?
No, no.
As you should.
Make sure you're muted. Everyone, make sure you're muted, please. Okay, go ahead and proceed.
Laws such as the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 and the Stop and Frisk policy enacted in New York City in 1999 have contributed to a heightened sense of controversy surrounding racial profiling and exercise use of force by law enforcement. The recent one, the Stand Your Ground law, passed in Florida in 2005, has also been a focal point of discussion regarding its implication for minority communities. These laws have been criticized for increasing tension between police and Black communities, often resulting in discriminatory practices and a loss of trust in law enforcement. Now, we imagine the African diaspora. I believe that was a divine inspiration for Dr. Karen. Today, more than ever, Black individuals must move beyond the existing narrative to shape the society they envision. We imagine the African diaspora is essential to honoring our ancestors while we celebrate the achievements of Black people throughout history and in contemporary culture. Ranging from cultural milestone to significant contribution across various fields, we must also recognize that this accomplishment inspires hope in a nation still grappling with racial divisions. By embracing our rich history and progress, we can forge a path forward a more inclusive, more equal future. It is important to understand that this nation was founded on principles that initially excluded people of African descent. The same European invasion of the Americas that led to the enslavement of Africans also forcibly separated families and dismantled the spirit of solidarity that contribute to a collective Black identity. This identity was formed by those who ended up in Hispaniola, known today as Haiti. We need to reimagine the African diaspora, recognizing our shape origins in order to challenge the white racial frame that continues to oppress us. In 1804, being Black in Haiti was characterized by bravery, courage, and a profound sense of unity, equality, and fraternity. Haiti is currently in turmoil because this understanding of Black identity is not based on supremacy. Rather, it emphasizes African ancestry and strong cultural identity as a response to both physical and mental slavery. We imagine the African diaspora should serve as a call for solidarity in the United States and across the entire continent. Thank you.
Thank you. So Derek, thank you for that very insightful presentation. So Derek, are you going to help us through the Q&A session? Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, so I'd like to open the floor for questions. Any questions that you have? It's amazing to me, Professor, the issues that you raised, we were discussing in my class before we joined for tonight. One of my students asked me what the point, you answered the question for me. Legine, she answered your question. She asked, what's the point of all of the discussions that we're having? Like, what is the end goal?
Yeah.
So I think you've given us an important end goal for a discussion like this, and that is to create solidarity among people of African descent. What are some of the things that you have recognized, those of you who are on the students who are taking different classes related to American history or African American history? What are some of the themes that you heard tonight that have meshed with what you have been learning in your classes? Well, let me start with a question. So tell me what has been your inspiration for the pathway that you've taken, because you've done law, you've done sociology. What has been your driving inspiration in what you do?
Well, I have to go back to my infants. I grew up in Haiti and moved in a very young age to the United States, to New York. And at that time, New York was not a peaceful area, but mostly, my father lived in Brooklyn, populated with Caribbeans, Blacks, and people of all different ancestry backgrounds. Coming from a country where Black identity is not color, is not toward color, it has nothing to do with your color of your skin. It's more of your ancestry or the fight that we went through. Because the first Haitian constitution talks about being Black. So anyone that comes to Haiti, that landed to Haiti in 1804, who did not have any problems with their identity as being a human being, can become Black in Haiti, could become Black in Haiti. As you know, probably more than many people here because you're a history professor, Haiti was taken for Black to become independent. And I usually say that Haiti is the only Black nation that we have in the Americas because we shed blood for the land and we also part of the native. So going back to your question, all those things were my motivation
Mm.
to see myself within the Black construction. So I went to school in New York, moved to North Carolina, and I never went to a school that was populated with Blacks.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I end up being in class by myself as a Black person. So that has provided me with insight to understand the differences of the Haiti that I has left behind and the country that I am in right now.
Do you know roughly how many Haitian Americans there are, and that is Haitian in the United States of America?
Well, it depends how you define Haitian Americans.
Okay. So
We have
in the borders of the United States, because yeah, you're right. America, that's a problem that we have in the United States. We say America, and we mean the continent. We just mean the United States, the country.
yeah. Well,
America is North and South America. Yeah. So
I'm saying that because many of you are Haitian descent without knowing it. That's what I just said. The fact that we were split, families were split, we were not in the same place. If we're talking about descendants, we have to go back to slavery.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't know if your great-grandfather was not born in Haiti.
Well, let me ask this question. For those of you who are on the line, raise your hand if you have relatives in Louisiana.
Yeah. So the Blacks that comes to Louisiana, not only Louisiana, Mississippi, Louisiana, and all those places, were initially part of Alabama, were initially in Haiti.
That's what, right. So I mentioned Louisiana because I know they're right next door. And usually folks in Texas have somebody in Louisiana. So what are those other states? Louisiana, where else did you say? Raise your hand.
Part of Alabama, Mississippi.
Okay, Alabama, Mississippi, raise your hand.
So those, and the fact that we are fighting each other, so we cannot correlate the narrative to see that we are the same.
So there's definitely a historical relationship between Haiti and these places.
Yes.
Right. So
and we also have Chicago. Chicago with Jean-Baptiste du Sable and all those people. And what I was trying to say, there was a migration of Haitian, there was an immigration issue as well. The migration was with the French leaving Haiti after the revolution to migrate with the people who didn't want to be free, okay, who refused that freedom, and comes with the masters.
Yeah.
Those are people originally, and that migration was going on between Haiti, Guadeloupe, and Martinique for many years, and Louisiana, and all the places, all the colonies that France had. So that's why I hate to say most of the Blacks in America have to relate themselves to Haiti. And you remember I sent you the journal, the National Journal of Haitians, of Black Americans during the Civil War who took the Haitian citizenship. You remember I sent that to you, remember that?
You sent me a lot of stuff, Professor.
Yes. So when we are talking about Black Americans in Haiti, African Americans in Haiti, we're talking about brothers and sisters.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine she definitely knows that her ancestors came from Haiti during the Haitian Revolution and they settled in Louisiana. She knows that for sure.
Yeah, most of them know that, but most of them don't want to say that.
But now that's also another matter.
They don't want to say that.
They don't, yeah.
And I explained all the reason in my presentation for that. It's because that you have a number of elements, stereotypes that were created to the legal system with housing, people who live in certain areas, with healthcare, people who do not have healthcare and who you've seen in different who has a different facial characteristic because of the way they eat, because of the way they live, the dress, and all those things. There are a lot of reasons that people do not want to identify with others.
Well, it's a very complex history, and you can definitely see it in the case of Haiti. I remembered as a little girl, my father, for some of you that don't know, my dad was a pastor, and he would invite pastors from the African diaspora. I realize now that that introduction came through church, but he would bring a minister from Haiti to speak at our church, and I became really just fascinated with the African diaspora because these ministers would preach. I thought it was French, but later I realized it was Haitian Creole, right? So as a little girl, I said, well, I want to learn French, so maybe I can become a missionary to Haiti. So I learned French only to realize that I was learning French from France, which was only going to serve me partially, you know.
Yeah.
So when I would go to a Haitian church, as long as the minister is reading from the Bible that's written in standard French, I'm with him. But the minute he starts to exegete in Haitian Creole, I'm down to 30% now.
Now, you need to know that we had the two official languages in Haiti until the
Right.
until really 2000 in 1991, and in the years of 2000, 1994, when Aristide went back to power. So the Haitian Creole really become officials in Haiti.
I remember when
But
they did that.
but we are also influenced by the French culture, as the French culture also took a lot of things from Haiti. So, you know, the cultural imperialism stuff and cultural appropriation. So many of the part of the Haitian culture is a mix up of all those things, but deeply rooted in Africa.
Yes. So someone said in the comments, the Black vernacular is amazing because of all the variations. You want to expand on that? Just the multiculturalism that you find even
Well,
in.
it's beautiful to me. That's what Haiti is about. It's like you go into a garden and you see roses, right? You see red roses, pink roses, white roses, blue roses, whatever the colors of the roses. And when you put it in the ball, you're looking at it, you're seeing beauty, right? You're seeing beauty. Unfortunately, that was not the case in the US, and that was not the case with the Europeans. They created two paths, the in-groups and the outputs, as though, as said in many of his immigration writings, the in-groups are the people that follow the trend of the Anglo-Saxon in the United States. So those gonna be people from West, South, and North of Europe. And you're gonna have the out groups that's going to follow the path of the African Americans, which we need to address today, because the in groups have addressed the issues of becoming white, because you become white in the United States during that time. So we know that the Italians and the Jews became white in the 1940s, right? But the out groups, instead of looking at the history, which is more beautiful than any of the others, because we were split in different places, not knowing who's the father is, who's the mother was, and who's the aunt, and any of those things. But we end up making ourselves a group. We built a group. We built a group. What we need to do now is not to see the group geographically. We have to see it historically.
So seeing it historically means doing what?
Dealing with the African ancestors where we came from, and begin to love each other. Understand the issues that surrounded the discrimination, because we all know that all those things come to put a barriers or to protect.
Okay, so we have a question from William. William, what's your question?
How you doing? First of all, I enjoyed your presentation and stuff like that. Very informative, very insightful. But the question I have, and I guess I can't quite describe what well, I just want to just first of all just come out and just ask the question because Well, there's a documentary that I saw, I think on Prime, and it was just talking about Black Florida, and it just talked about the African American, I guess, the history of African Americans in Florida. And in the documentary, they talked about the Jamaicans and the Haitians that came to Florida. And when the Jamaicans were discussed by this African American male historian, he basically said that the Jamaicans came with education, so they were able to adapt and be prosperous. And then he mentioned the Haitians, and he just mentioned how African Americans, you know, kind of turn their nose up at the Haitians and look down on them because I guess he thought that they were not as resourceful, as the Jamaicans were. But, I'm just curious, and I'm asking you because you're Haitian, so you know more about, the Haitian experience than an African American would. Is there some truth to that?
I love
Or
your question. I love your question because your question tacked on what I just talked about, right? What I just talked about. I don't know which part of Florida the documentary was referring to.
um I don't, it might have been, I don't think it was Miami, but it could have been well, you know what? I wish I had to go back and take a look at it, but I mean, I know it was dealing with probably one of the major cities in Florida. So it could have been Miami or it might have been Orlando. I'm not sure because it's been probably a year since I saw the documentary, or a little less than a year. I think I might have watched it last summer. Um, so I guess whatever part it was, it had to have been some sort of enclave where Haitian immigrants would have settled.
Yeah, let me tell you one thing that we must not work with. It's the division that they're trying to create among ourselves.
Right.
Okay. So in Miami, you have a population of Haitian that now in the politics that controlled or mostly control the politics of Miami and not Miami with the Cubans, which already told you that the population of Haitians in that area are a little bit powerful,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So you could not have that without that power. Secondly, which also told you that Haitians and African Americans are not divided.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you had the Haitians coming in the 1980s, because I used to be the head of the Haitian Refugee Center in Miami. You had the Haitian coming in the 90s, fleeing the oppression of Duvalier. But Duvalier during that time, it was a puppet of the US. And therefore, the US could not recognize the Haitians that were coming, were fleeing political persecution as well as the Cubans. The Cubans that were coming during that time were fleeing. We're not saying that they were fleeing persecution. As a matter of fact, they were saying that they were fleeing famine, political. Well, we have two groups of Cubans that were coming. We have those that were against Castro and those for Castro that they called the Mayotte Cubans. Those people were fleeing economical situation due to the embargo that the US put on Cuba, right? But the Haitians that were coming at the same time, the US did not recognize them as political asylees. They saw them as people fleeing hungriness and all those things that had nothing to do with politics, which politics led to. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me tell you, the first Haitian refugee center that we had, it was built by the solidarity of African American pastors, Haitians, and so people from the Jewish communities. So which tell us, I'm sorry for the dog, which tell us that the word of fighting between Haitian and African Americans is a word. If you said fight between human being and human being, I will accept that. But the concept of African Americans and Haitians are fighting each other does not exist. That doesn't exist. You will see it's the same concept that they are saying crime on blacks.
Yeah. Right. I think it's so important. I typed in the chat to resist easy categorizations. Anytime you're getting a kind of, blanket statement about people who are interacting, from a historical standpoint, you have to ask so many different questions. Like which group are you talking about? When did their history with the territory that we call the United States of America, when did that begin? What was the impetus for their coming? There are just so many different questions you have to ask when you're talking about immigrants.
One of the things that I wanted to say to answer the question, though, he was referring to education. He was referring to education. Where we are in the chaos in Haiti right now, it's probably this is what the so-called white racial frame wanted to see in Haiti. Because as you know, Haiti was the first Black independent country which give us the priority to build schools, education. There's a problem with the microphone. Can you hear me?
I think we're getting feedback. If everyone can make sure they're
echo.
Yeah, please, turn your phone off because we're getting feedback. So stay muted until it's your time to talk. And you're going to go to Jean next after she finishes. Go ahead.
And Haitian did not come prior to the 1980s really in big, massive people. So when people began to come during that time, so you had the farmers, not the farmers were coming. But of course, in the countryside, in all country, you will see people less educated. And that's not only in Haiti. Second thing, the Jamaicans speak English. Okay? Haitians were coming with French and Creole. So
that's the point that I'm making, that you have to think about all of the different factors. So English is a second language for them, not.
Yes. And the third thing that I wanted to tell you, in the 1960s, when we began to have a break in the civil rights movement, the United States sent for Haitians to come to United States because that's where they found more doctors, more nurses, and more educated people to help in the education. And all the things that I'm talking to you now are facts that you can fact check. So the statistic can tell you about it. So look at the population of New York, Chicago, Massachusetts, and all those places, you will know. Thank you.
Thank you. LaJean, can you go with your question, please?
Yes. Greetings, Dr. Dathis, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My question is with respect to the successful 1791 Haitian Revolution. In today's society, with regards to race relations, do we continue to put our hope in the political process, or do we go back to revolting in order to
question.
I'm sorry?
That is a big question.
Yes, because I want to know, do I fight or not? And how do I fight?
LaJean, we want you in that process. We want you in the process because you can see it. You can see it and you can see through it.
Okay.
Right? So that's why I think that Dr. Kossie is calling for reimagining the African diaspora. The fight is not about Haitian, it's about Haiti. As I said before, if you go back to your history, you can call all yourself Haitian without having the citizenship.
Okay.
So the fact that we took a land, the Blacks fought and get a land for freedom against slavery, it's a fight against the big power, the 1% of the world. because our brain and our physical body used to be a machine. And Haiti stopped that machine.
Mm. Mm.
So should we go back? I think that we need to unite our forces and go back.
And when you say go back to what?
She asked me if we go back to 1791. That's what I said.
Okay.
Or should we?
Before we came on, she was trying to get me to take up arms. So
The gene is ready for
I
the
don't know
revolution.
I don't know if we can go back to the same way that we did it, because we don't have the same elements today. But we need to begin to think about what we have done and where we are and how can we move forward.
Thank you for your response.
You're welcome.
very good. Okay, we have a question from Daniette.
I just, my one question is, what's a good database to, like, if we want to find if we're connected, like our lineage, if we're connected to Haiti, what's a good database that we could use, or would you refer to us to research our lineage?
Probably a state in your state, you can go ahead and see the survey that has been done in your state. A good database for lineage will be, for lineage in general. Doctor, can you help me?
Family, I was gonna say Family Search is free. Okay, and if you know that the person, I mean, if you're talking about somebody who might have migrated, there would be immigration records for somebody who literally migrated, you know, who may have come during one of those periods that she talked about, immigration records. Apart from that, you know, so
Ancestry.com.
I was just about to ask, how many of you have done your DNA, done DNA testing through Ancestry.com? Just a show of hands. Okay. Okay. I have as well. Yeah. So at least that genetic test kind of starts to point you into some directions about where your ancestral ties might be. And then, just as she said, each state has state records, vital statistics, and also there's, I'll bring it I'll send it to you after the meeting, but there's a genealogical workshop that's actually being sponsored by one of the local genealogical societies that is free, where they can teach you how to research your family history. I just found out about it today at a workshop that I went to, and I'll post that information to you. Thank you for that question.
I think local libraries and historical societies also can help.
Right. Yes, we do have local repositories. The University of Houston has, the African American Research Center, Texas Southern University, all of the universities have, many of their files are being digitized. Also, the University of North Texas has an excellent oral history repository, all kinds of history. But I'll put those names in the chat, okay? And so these are digital archives that you can access.
Yeah, you can see the movement of people. One thing that I had found in most people that are Black that are doing research, or ancestors are doing, looking for the ancestors and things like that, are getting the geographical platform from the same place, and mostly from West Africa. So Haitians are getting the ancestry from Nigeria, Benin, and all those places. African Americans, the same thing. I'm reading the same thing. I don't know if those things are accurate or not, because most people that I have heard or read the ancestry things, they have it from the same place.
So,
Okay.
excuse me, Dr. Kossie and Dr. Dathis, I did want to thank you, and I did want to give a chance for students to ask their questions. I wrote a question and it's been waiting. So I
Oh,
just
I'm sorry. I missed it.
no, I didn't post it. I was trying to make sure students had a chance. I'm going to just post it. I didn't want to just spring it on you. I wanted you to just see it, and if there was a comment, because it was actually, you know, it's a professor kind of question. So I didn't want to just pop it up there. But if you had a minute, Dr. Dathis, I was hoping you would take a look.
Let me take a look.
Thank you.
So your question said, can you please clarify? Is that the question that you have?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Can you
Yes.
please clarify your point about the group of people with African ancestry in the United States? Are you saying that perhaps these groups of people of the African diaspora in the US are not competing for relative hierarchy in the US? Or are you saying that these people should reject artificial colonial delineation? I will say the second part.
Okay,
I
thank
will
you.
say the second part. Yes, they should reject artificial colonial delineation.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
So as language differences, because I have in the book that I published in 2021,
Mhm.
I have done interviews where people express the differences between French and Creole. And those are generation of children born in the United States, right? And the same thing that I'm seeing in my classes, students with different accents.
Exactly.
So they have problems. And Fagan said it in his book. One of the things that they have done after we had people to assimilate by being white or Anglo-Saxon, but you also need to have a color and a language. You have to speak English from the Anglo-Saxon accent. One thing that happened to me one day, I was in a meeting, an association meeting, a group of people were there, mostly white and black, and all of us were speaking English with different accents. So they went to two of us who were blacks, the Cameroon. They didn't ask the person from Europe, and I think that person was from Switzerland or from one of those countries. They didn't ask her, where are you from? They didn't go and ask her, where you from? They asked me, and they asked the Cameroonese, where were you from? And I went back, I said, what didn't you ask her, where is she from? And that person looked at me, and so it is a reaction of, the problem is white versus black. So that's what the in-groups and the out-groups mean for me. The in-groups, you are white, you go to go. You're good to go. You are blacks, you follow the same strand that we have to fight, we have to compete, we have to do all those things, and we have to accept the hierarchy the way it is.
And you're saying the revolution is to reject the hierarchy?
Yes.
I like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent talk. Thank you so much.
It's very rich.
Very.
We have any other questions or comments or observations? I think that you've given us a lot to think about. There's a lot to unpack and to think about. So do you have any closing observations for us, Professor?
Well, what I would like to say, I would like to call on everybody who are here to make circle. When I said circle, go and talk to 10 or 20 people that you know. Let them know that today is the time for us to build solidarity. It's for us to reject the language of division.
Love it.
It's the time for us to reimagine the African diaspora as one, as all of us come from the mother country, which is Africa, the mother continent, which is Africa, which none of us know which part that we came from. That's why we have to build our own society and reject all the differences that gonna make division in our life.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Well, thank everyone for your attentiveness. Thank you, Dr. Dathis, for a very rich discussion. You've given us a lot to think about. And I want to thank all of my colleagues who are here from various departments on campus and our visitors from off campus. I love this digital space because it allows us to be all together, really on an equal playing field in a way to discuss this very important topic. Thank you again, Dr. Dathis. Someone wrote.
There's a new message.
Someone has a hand up.
Very powerful. I'm sorry, I didn't. Okay, Takara, your question or comment?
Good evening. I'm sorry. I was driving earlier and I was trying to hurry up and get home so I could ask my question. But I do want to let the doctor know that my people, on my dad's side of the family, they are from Louisiana. So I can hear subtle similarities in the dialect, the soft D's, and just the grunt of your voice is literally there. Besides of, the only difference is how you pronounce your R's, which is like F, so I can definitely hear that. I'm 100% with you when you say that, there should not be this great divide between us. But what we do know is what the catalyst is for that divide.
Mhm.
And I feel like anyone who feeds into that is highly foolish, and they are reinforcing the great work that J. Edgar Hoover did and the CIA did, and all of the people who belong to that variety of folks. And by continuing to push their narrative and widening that wedge between us, and not even just between African Americans here and Haitians, I mean throughout the entire diaspora, there has been a movement to keep the divide there. And one of the things that I typically tell people, which is controversial at first when you first hear it, but just stay with me, I tend to say, don't push for unity. I'm not for unity, because with unity, you lose yourself in that. You have to put aside your culture. You have to decide which language is going to be the actual official language and what is going to be the official culture. My push is for cohesion, because you can maintain your culture, you can maintain your language, but there's one commonality in cohesion. You have that one singular goal. And if anybody is a science person and into chemistry and things like that, you'll know one of the hardest bonds to break is a cohesive bond. It is very difficult to break it. But unity, anybody can be deunified for any reason. Look at this country, for example. You have a political system that divides the country. There's no cohesion in the United States. I'm actually against calling Africa, for people who say we need to have the United States of Africa. No, we need to pick something else. You can easily be deunified. It's not smart to do that. So if anybody is vibrating on the frequency that I'm vibrating, please join me in no longer saying we need to unify. It's we need to become cohesive, because we have a common goal, we have a common bloodline, and what we do know is that we will make it through this. So that's all I had to say.
Love it. I love
I love that
I
cohesive
love it.
bond.
Cohesive. Cohesive bond means that you need to build that solidarity.
I'm going to go and look up a cohesive bond from a scientific standpoint, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So that's what reimagination is all about. So she's calling for something beyond unity, which
Yes.
it can actually be disunited, but
Yeah.
cohesion. Thank you for that very that's a very, I can tell you've thought about that a lot, for adding that to the discussion. I like it.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Takara, for sharing that. I thank all of you again. Thank you, Professor Dathis, all of our guests. We really appreciate your showing up, and our guests for showing out. It's really great. So we're going to close this evening, but I do want to remind you that we have one more week of this opportunity to reimagine the African diaspora. We have activities. I'll be sending out the reminders. Thank you again, Dr. Dathis, for giving us a lot to think about. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Dr. Brooks DeVita. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.